Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to Quick Fix Fridays show. In today's video, we'll be talking about setting boundaries, what they are, why you need to have them, and how to get them set up. So I'm just trying to get here into my moderator page and make sure that I'm going live. Oh, Greg, hi. Thanks for watching. All right, I'm Miriam Burke, a communication coach. I'm specialized in conflict resolution and personal effectiveness skills. I help people understand how their communication style and reactionary patterns affect their personal and professional relationships. And I help them then develop the behaviors that they need to reach their goals. Say hi, hit the like or the wow button if you can hear me loud and clear. As you can see, this is my very first Facebook Live. I'm a little bit nervous. I've never done this before, but hopefully this is gonna be okay. I don't see myself live. It's because I don't, oh, here it is. Maybe I can find myself. Oh yeah, I see myself live right there. Great. Alrighty, so say hi. Tell me where you were watching this video from. And if you are catching the replay, just do the same thing. You know, hit the like, hit the wow button, say hi, tell me where you're watching this from. Alrighty, so let's get started. Okay, so what are boundaries, right? So boundaries are the limits of our tolerance for other people's actions and words. They are these guidelines and limits that we create to identify what we like and what we don't like. They are these fences that we put up to protect ourselves and to keep in the things that we want and to keep out the things that we don't want. Our boundaries help us decide what types of behaviors, communications, and interactions we accept and the ones that we don't. And they are invisible fences. So therefore, it is our job to communicate to those around us what our boundaries are, as they are very personal and subjective to ourselves. They are going to be different from other people's boundaries as well. And that's okay. That's just part of being human. But it's important that you understand that if you have your boundaries and if they are subjective to you, other people's boundaries are going to be subjective to them as well. And it's important to respect them, right? So we know where boundaries are, and why do we need to have boundaries? Why do we need to set them, and why do we need to enforce and maintain them? Well, boundaries define our identity, right? And help us understand what we like and what we don't like, as I mentioned before. As Dr. Brené Brown says, very simply, boundaries are what we define as it's okay and what is not okay. And that's really important because it helps define us, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and who we are. And that also helps promote us to others, because then it makes other people look at us and understand what we can do and what we can't, what we like and what we don't like. Boundaries help protect ourselves by keeping out and away from us the people, the circumstances, the things that we don't want. Setting boundaries help bring order into our lives. Our lives is already chaotic and busy, but when we set boundaries, we stop doing so much for others and the requests of others, and we start doing more for ourselves. And when we do that, right, so that increases our self-esteem, because we start taking care of ourselves better, we start doing more what we want and what we feel that is better for us. We therefore take more care of ourselves, we became better communications, and that can only result in having better relationships, right? So that's really important to be able to understand what our boundaries are, communicate to people, and enforce them we are going to have better relationships. We learn how to say no. When we have our boundaries defined, then now we can say, yeah, nope, talk to the hand, stay right there. I don't like that. I don't want to, I don't want that to my life right now. Well, hit like and the wow button if you agree with setting boundaries and having a healthier and happier life for yourself. That would be great. Again, this is my first time here. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm really hoping that you enjoyed this now and later on. All right, if we don't have healthy boundaries set, what it is that is going to happen to us, right? The signs of ineffective and poor boundaries can lead us to the loss of respect from ourselves and from others, the loss of control of the direction of our lives because we are actually not doing what we want to do for ourselves. We are actually just taking actions and doing things from others. So we are not doing what it's going to help us to reach our goals and what makes us happy and what we really like. There's an increased chaos, distractions, and of course, the sense of guilt and resentment when we don't do things for ourselves, and when we do things that we don't want to do, we start losing interest for life. We become disengaged from other people. Depression settles into some of us, and it becomes harder to live, right? And that's all due because we haven't set out strong, healthy internal boundaries to keep us away from things that we don't like and don't make us happy. Without our personal boundaries, we feel taken advantage of. Then we start feeling resented of people and angry. And that, as you know, it's not healthy. It's not healthy mentally, it's not healthy spiritually, it's not healthy physically, it's not healthy emotionally. We don't want that for our lives. So, you know what boundaries are. You know why you should set them and what happens when we don't. So, how do we set boundaries? Okay, so these are my 5 steps to setting boundaries. 1, develop self-awareness. 2, define your boundaries around certain areas in your life. 3, communicate your boundaries. 4, learn to say no. And 5, then learn not to take things personally. So let's back up a little bit. 1, develop self-awareness. How does your body react to certain people, certain actions, certain words, certain circumstances? That is your number 1 cue when one of your boundaries have been violated. When someone says something, asks for something, or behaves in a certain way or a certain place or a certain circumstance that you are at, how does your body react? Are you having clammy hands? Is your stomach in a knot? Are you having tightness of the chest? Are you feeling certain anger? Are you feeling resented of that person? If that is true, then know that one of your boundaries have been violated. If you know what your boundaries are, then you would know which one has been violated, and then it's time for you to speak up. So pay attention to the physical reactions and the emotional reactions that you have to certain people, to certain actions and certain asks. That's going to be your first cue that your boundary has been violated. Then 2, we have to define our boundaries. And I'll go back to that just a little bit later because we're going to go deep into that a little bit. Once you have defined your boundaries, then now you have to communicate them, right? Because you can't expect people to read your mind. People don't read minds. So it is our job to communicate to people what our boundaries are. And we are going to be talking about that next Friday. I will come back here and hopefully you too, or at least you will catch up on the replay. We are going to talk about how to be assertive when communicating your boundaries. And, assertive communication is something that I actually learned after I moved into this country. Is a way that you communicate that is firm, but kind. There's no attack words. You know how to position yourself, and people respect you. Believe me, people respect you when you are assertive. when communicating, right? We learn to say no and understand that no is a complete sentence in itself. When someone asks you to do something, it's totally okay for you to just say no. But, we always have the little guilt, or we don't want to hurt people's feelings, so we want to complement the no with something else. I will be talking about that next Friday as well. We'll be giving you some examples of how can we say no without apologizing, without excusing ourselves, without feeling guilty, without feeling bad, right? And you can say, for instance, thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm totally tapped out at this moment. Or you can just say, no, I can't do it at this time. Or no, I don't have the bandwidth to do it at this time, but maybe next time. And we'll talk about the maybe next time next Friday. So please come back for that. And 5, you learn to not take comments so personally. We are also going to talk about that next Friday. This is really important as part of setting boundaries, because we have a lot of people with a lot of opinions and suggestions in their minds. And it is important that when someone says something about us to us, that we check in with ourselves first, right? So one thing that I always say is that if someone calls you, for instance, if someone says that you're lazy because you didn't turn in your report on time, or because you can't arrive earlier to work on a project or something, well, check in with yourself first, right? Am I really lazy? How does that comment really relate to the kind of person that I am? Don't let those comments affect you. Don't take those comments so personally. Most of the time, people are really talking about them and not about you, right? And once we have our boundaries defined, then we are able to honor the boundaries of others. And that is going to be a cyclical reactionary chain. The more we respect people's boundaries, the more they will respect our boundaries back. The more we understand them, the more they will understand us back. And to the contrary to what most people think, setting boundaries and reinforcing them do not cause breakage in relationships. It's the opposite. It's actually strengthen the bond, strengthen the relationship, because they are looking at you and they know they can count on you, because when you say that you can do it, you are able to do it. And when you say that you can't, it's because you have no bandwidth, time, energy to do it. They respect us more. Right? So let's go back to number 2, how to define our boundaries, right? Okay, so I have a couple of people watching here, and before I move on, please click the like button or the wow button. Let me know if you have any comment at the moment. There's nothing going up right now. That's okay. If you're watching this on the replay, just do the same. Please click like. Please click the wow button. It's so important for me here to know that you are really enjoying and getting the content that you need. All right, so let's go back to how to define boundaries, because this is why we are here for, right, today. Like I said, Dr. Brené Brown explains what boundaries are in such a simple way. And she says, boundaries are what's okay and what is not okay for us. Is that simple. So we can set our boundaries around several areas in our lives. So let's check in, and for the next week, I would like for you to take some time and think about how you are setting boundaries around the following areas, right? Your rights, your needs, and your values. How are you setting your boundaries around your rights, your needs, and your values? So what is truly important to you at this moment? What is okay and what is not okay for you? What kinds of behaviors do you accept, and what kinds of behaviors you don't want in your life? What kind of people you don't want in your life? What do you need more in your life right now and you don't have? What do you value and you will not accept any less of, right? So these are your rights, needs, and values. So for instance, for me, I need to exercise every day. Even if it's just a 30-minute walk, just gets, just to get the blood flowing through my body. It kind of affects my brain in a way that it gets me out of my office, it gets me out of my routine, and it gets me to see the beauty of the wildlife around me, the other people, get this fresh smell of the air, and just get more new information coming into my brain. It makes me feel good. So I need that. That's a need that I have, and I enforce that. I go out every day on a walk, on a hike, on a run, or exercise. I always put that on my calendar. As a right, I learned to say no and not feel guilty. It still comes up from time to time. Hey Stephanie, hey Greg, thanks for coming in. Hey Diolindo, hey Marcos, I appreciate your presence here. So I learned to say no and not feel guilty about it. Of course, he pops in and creeps in from time to time. I would say no, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I should do that. I can help. But no, then I talked to myself and said, I don't have the time or energy to do that right now. If I do it, I'm not gonna give my best. So I'm not, it's just not something that I'm gonna do. Great, so I learned that. So those are my rights and needs, and I have my personal values that I created my boundaries around. So take some time this week and think about what you consider that are your rights, your needs, and your values, and what it is that it's important to you in those, and what it is that you want more of that, and what it is that you want less of that. And that could include people as well. We define boundaries around our time and energy, right? So how are you protecting your time and your energy? Are you spending too much time and energy on doing things for others and doing things that you don't want, you don't like, you don't have the time for it, you don't have energy for it, and then therefore is taking away time for doing things that you like, that you want, that is going to take you to your goals? It's really important to look into that, because when we take our time to do things for other people, our energy gets depleted, and then we won't have the energy to work for ourselves later on. There's so much beauty in life, and there's so much that we can do in this life, and it's important that we take the step to do that for ourselves. This life is really short, right? Whether I'm gonna live up to 59 years like my mom, or if I'm gonna live up to 103 years like my great-grandfather, this is one life, right? So let's live it to the fullest, as long as we are not violating other people's boundaries, as long as you're not doing anything illegal. Just get to do things that are really important to you, that make you happy, that is going to take you closer to accomplishing your goals in this life. So think about how you are protecting your time and your energy right now, and make sure to create some boundaries around there. How are you protecting your emotions and your thoughts? Are you being affected by other people's feelings and moods? Are you taking in other people's feelings as if they were your own? If so, you need to stop. This is not healthy for you. It's a great thing to be empathetic and compassionate and understand what other people are going through. It's another thing to take in what they are going through as your own personal experience. People have to go through their experiences in life as we are going through our own experiences in life. So let's separate ourselves, because that's healthier for us. How are you protecting your body, right? It's really important that we protect our body, and that we are very clear about physical touch. Are you allowing inappropriate or what you consider unwanted touching because you're afraid of backlash? You're afraid of creating conflict? Are you afraid of being fired? If so, you need to speak up. If it is safe for you to speak up, to say, please stop touching me this way, I don't like it, it doesn't make me feel good. But if you are in a situation that is not safe for you to speak up, please go talk to someone that can help you. Authority, maybe a friend, someone that can help you think through how to deal with the situation and get out of any unsafe, unwanted touching as quick as possible. This is a very strong subject, and it's really strong for me, and we are gonna leave it for another time. But if someone is touching you in a way that you feel inappropriate, I don't care what other people think. It's how you think, it's how you feel. If someone touches you in a way that you don't like, they need to stop, but you need to speak up. But again, if you are in an unsafe situation, please go seek help. There's authorities that can help you. There's people that can help you. You should not stay in for fear, okay? How are you protecting your belongings in your areas, right? How are you protecting your personal files, your emails, your text messages? How are you protecting personal spaces for you? Do you have a little corner, a little space that you can crawl in and, just be alone, read a book, meditate, fall asleep, take a nap? Doesn't matter. Like, how are you protecting that time alone, that space for yourself? Do you have that? Is that important to you? Because if it's not, then don't even think about that. You don't need to spend time on that right now. I wish I could know how long I've been on this video. I'm not sure. But I want to give you just a couple of examples of how setting boundaries is important for the smallest little mundane of our daily lives to our professional lives, right? And this is a great example that it actually happened yesterday as I was talking to a friend. She was telling me how upset she is that every time that she leaves the house now, she's in her car, her neighbor's dog just come right in from the street, and he's not street smart, he's not car smart, so he keeps jumping and bouncing and being all happy in front of the car. And she has to stop the car, get out of the car and take the dog back to the house because she fears for the dog's life, and she's afraid that she might run over the dog or another car might run over the dog. That wouldn't be a problem if she's not pressed for time, which is a lot of the times, right? So she's just thinking, pulling out and just going do whatever it is that she needs to do. But now she has to stop and take the dog back to the house because she feels responsible. If something bad happens to the dog, she's gonna feel guilty. So I asked her a question: are you resenting your friend, neighbor for that? And she's like, yes, I do resent them. It's their responsibility to keep their dog in the house. I'm like, okay, so if you're resenting them, that's a boundary that has been violated. You need to communicate. You need to go to them and say, hey, every time I pull out from my driveway, your dog is on the street. Please make sure to close your fence in your gate. Your dog is not car smart, and I'm afraid for his life or its life. And just know, she said, but what should I do? Because I've already talked to them several times. I said, okay, so that's a conversation that you need to have with yourself. So just know that if you make an agreement with yourself, if you have time to stop the car, get out of the car and bring the dog back to its house, then do so. If you don't have the time, if you know that if you stop to do that, you are going to be late, then just have the conversation in your head and say, I don't have the time to put him back, and it's not my fault if something happens to him. I know I will feel bad, but it is not my fault. And it's true, like, this is really important. So she said, okay, I'm gonna do that. And it made her feel better because her response later on was, I noticed that was already interfering in my friendship with them. And we don't want that, guys. We don't want for small daily routine actions like that to interfere in our friendships and relationships of life. Like it's having friends and having our neighbors' friends, it's really important to us. So let's maintain that. So it's easy to communicate. I'm gonna give you an example of a client that I have. When I first met her, on our second meeting together, she said that she had a very low self-esteem because a couple of coworkers would always comment on her choice of clothing, which is very loose, and they would go even far to say that she looked fat. Okay, peeps, let's not comment about people's physical appearances or their choice of clothing. That's very personal and subjective. People should do whatever it is that they want to do. Let's understand that when we comment about people's physical appearances, it can really cause a deep scar, like a trauma. It makes them feel self-conscious, it lowers their self-esteem, and it can lead to depression. So let's not do that. And that's exactly what was happening to her. I asked her what she did every time that they made those kinds of comments, because they would say, oh, look at so-and-so, and look at her clothes today. And someone else would say, you were looking fatter today than yesterday. And I asked her, how do you respond to that? And she said, well, I just smile, I giggle, and like, yeah, And I asked, how does that make you feel? And she started crying, and she said, that makes me feel horrible. I don't like feeling that way. It makes me feel like I don't care about myself, but I really like my clothes, and I really like the way I look, but it makes me feel like I should look differently. Well, there you go. That's your cue. That a boundary has been violated. So we talked about different ways to come and discuss and talk to them about how they would stop commenting on her choice of clothing and how fat she looks. We worked on some I statements, which we're gonna work next Friday. And a few weeks later, when I asked her about the coworkers' comments, she said they stopped. She went to them and just say, hey, it really makes me feel so self-conscious, and my self-esteem is so low when you guys are commenting about my choice of clothing, and when you make a joke that I'm fatter today than yesterday, it makes me feel so bad about myself. I know I'm not a model skinny or a skinny model, and I don't intend to be that way either. I'm okay with the way I look, and I'm just happy the way I am. Can we just be okay? I would love for you guys to not make those comments anymore, because I really care about our friendship. They stopped, okay? They stopped. So it's really important that we take the time to understand what our boundaries are, define them around those areas that we talked about. What do you consider your rights, your needs, your values? What it is that you consider important as far as safeguarding your time and energy. How do you protect your emotions and thoughts? What is your protection around physical touch? And what about your personal belongings and areas? So take some time this week and think about your boundaries and how you want to protect them. I created a little worksheet for you guys, which I'm going to upload into the Facebook page. And it looks something like that. So there's a couple of questions up here that will help you. Once you answer these questions, you're going to be able to come down here onto the grid and start defining and creating your boundaries for yourself. And next Friday, when we come back here, we are going to be talking on how to enforce them. What is the best way to enforce them? How do we say no? How do we talk in an assertive way, which is firm but kind? How do we deal with angry people? How do we deal with pushovers? And hopefully that is going to lead you to, better relationships, a happier life, more fulfilled life, getting to know yourself a little bit more. Because that's my goal here. And I appreciate you being here today. Please hit the like button, hit the wall button, hit the love button, leave me a comment. Let me know how you enjoyed the content of today. Again, this was my very first Facebook Live, so there's a lot for me to learn, but I enjoyed being here a lot. I would like to say hi to Stephanie and Carol just joined in. Thank you so much for taking the time and spending here with me. Stephanie said, I go out and walk barefoot in nature for more than 30 minutes. This is so important, Stephanie, because I bet that this fulfills your daily need for happiness and time with nature, and that fills your bucket. So that is good, and I'm glad that you are protecting that need of yours. So go ahead, tell me in the comments what are the boundaries that you know that you've already set for yourself, what it is that you need, that you value, that you protect. And let's set more boundaries. Let's help each other. Post a question here if you have any question. I'm going to be looking through the week. Again, I'm going to upload the worksheet for you guys. Hopefully you're going to take some time and work on your boundaries this week. And next week when we come back for our Quick Fix Fridays show, we will be talking about how to enforce our boundaries, how to keep those pushovers and the angry people at bay, and let's improve our relationships. Let's create stronger, better relationships for ourselves and be happier. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next Friday, but I will be on the Facebook page answering questions and any comments that you may post there. Bye.